Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the full council. I'm Councillor Billy Drummond, Chairman of West Berkshire Council. The meeting is being live streamed via YouTube, so members of the public are able to follow proceedings. Council members are present in the council chamber for the meeting. Any member of the council who is attending remotely will be entitled to speak and ask questions when invited to do so by myself. The officers in attendance are Executive Director for Adult Social Care, Paul Cole, the Executive Director for Children and Family Services, Anne-Marie Dodds, and the Executive Director for Place, Claire Lawrence. Nikki Thomas, the Deputy Monitoring Officer, will be the legal advisor to the meeting. I'm assisted by Darius Sarazel, the clerk of the meeting, and by Sam Chiverton, who will be the Zoom host. Welcome to the honorary aldermen in attendance. Before we start this evening's meeting, I'd like to take the opportunity to remind members that we are subject to the Council's Code of Conduct, which requires us to uphold certain standards, including, importantly, respect. Members across the chamber may not always agree with one another, but I would ask that in our disagreements, we endeavour to always be respectful to others' views. I'd also like to ask members of the public attending this meeting, do not interrupt or speak outside your designated speaking slots. Also, please refrain from approaching councillors unless you're invited to do so. During the meeting, when a motion has been proposed and seconded, I will ask the Deputy Monitoring Officer to conduct a show by hands. Moving on to agenda item 1, apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chairman. We have received apologies from councillors Jeremy Cottam, Louise Sturgis, Martha Vickers, Heather Codling and Laura Cole. We've also received apologies from honorary aldermen and alderwomen, Hilary Cole, Anthony Stansfield, Graham Bridgman, Andrew Rolls, Keith Chopping, Paul Bryant, Molly Locke, Adrian Edwards. I understand honorary alderman Rick Jones is attending online. Are there any apologies from the floor?
Councillor Brooks.
Not an apology, but I think council might want to congratulate Councillor Heather Codling, who is tonight with her granddaughter, her daughter, and her newly arrived grandson. I think it was it yesterday? Today? I'm not comfortable that she didn't attend tonight, but I think, you know, it's probably a good reason. Thank you.
Councillor.
Thanks, Chairman. Can I pass on apologies from Councillor Jane Langford as well, please?
Thank you. I have attended 16 different events since the last ordinary meeting of the Council on the 28th of November, including the Community Champions Award put on by West Berkshire Council, the King's Award for Volunteer Service, and a number of Christmas events over the holiday period. I attended 3 Christmas services in December, one at Hungerford as guest of Councillor Helen Simpson, Mayor of Hungerford, one at Thatcham as guest of Susan Amadeus, Mayor of Thatcham, and as guest of Andy Moore, Mayor of Newbury. All were excellent. West Berkshire host for the King's Award for Volunteer Service held at Shaw House on a lovely sunny day. Mr Andrew Try, Lord Lieutenant for the Royal County of Berkshire, accompanied by the Lord Lieutenant's Cadets. There were 6 overall winners: Sienna's Smile, Feeling Fruity, Soulscape, Baby Bank, also loose ends in the Newbury Riding School, both from the Newbury area. The Lord Lieutenant spoke to the winners and said it was equivalent of winning a gold at the Olympics. Also, Councillor Dick was also there as the Deputy Lord Lieutenant, presenting one of the winners. The Community Championship Awards are also held at Saw House on an equally warm day. I'd like to thank all the winners and to remind members of the public and councillors to get their nominations in for next year. This is a fantastic annual event, opportunity to show the wonderful people we have volunteering in West Berkshire. Last Saturday, along with the Mayor and Deputy Mayor of Thatcham and the Deputy Mayor of Newbury, to watch the heats of the Magistrates Court mock trials competition. There were 10 schools in the competition and 2 winning teams to go through to the final on the 10th of May. I'm pleased to say that one of the winning teams were the Kennett School. Councillor Dick, you'll be pleased with that. Well done to the Kennett, and there will be a final cheering on the 10th of May. And finally, I went along with many friends from West Berkshire to Joe Naylor's funeral. Although a sad event, there was much joy in remembering Joe. Thank you very much. And now, Councillor Vickers would like to say a few words in the opening of the Keeble Outdoor Spaces, Spainland, and the memorial service to the US servicemen in England.
Yes, I was very pleased to attend Keeble Outdoor Space in what used to be my ward, but is no longer, Speenham Land School. And also attended, not for the first time, because I was a Greenham Parish Councillor once, the annual memorial service for those US servicemen that lost their lives in peacetime. Well, they were wartime, but non-combatant accidents in the UK during the Second World War. Always a moving moment. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Vickers. As we have two sets of minutes on the agenda, we will, sorry, Councillor Brooks.
Thank you for letting me speak, Chairman. I hope members are sitting comfortably. You will notice that you now are able to freewheel around the chamber. In fact, the chairs, and I just draw attention to this because I'll also anticipate some points of view. But the old chairs very heavy and were making dreadful marks on the floor, which you'll see has been cleaned. So the ability for a member to actually get up easily without wrestling with a heavy chair and sitting comfortably, we think we've achieved that. The chairs have been rehoused. So, you know, we make sure that everything is recirculated, recycled here. And you'll notice the reception area being a little bit spruced up, made a little bit smarter. Every expense has been spared before you draw attention to this. No exorbitant marketing or design agency has been used. It's all been done in-house, but it just gives a nice refresh to this chamber and to reception, as you will see in the days ahead. I'm not happy to take questions tonight, but no doubt there'll be questions in this chamber soon about it. I try and, you know, get ahead of that, and I hope you enjoy the few changes we're making. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. As we have two sets of minutes on the agenda, we will vote on them separately. I will propose that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 28th of November 2024 be sent as a correct record. Can I have a seconder?
Happy to second, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Are there any amendments from the floor? Please could the Deputy Monitoring Officer conduct a show of vote by hands?
So all those in favour of the minutes, can I have a show of hands, please? Any against? And any abstentions? Thank you, that's been carried.
Thank you. I will now propose that the minutes of the Budget Council meeting held on the 27th of February 2025 be sent as a correct record. Can I have a seconder for that, please?
Happy to second again, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Are there any amendments from the floor? No. Please could the Deputy Monitoring Officer conduct a vote of show of hands?
Thank you, Chairman. Can I have a show of hands for those in favour? Thank you. I think that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 4, declaration of interest. I will ask the Deputy Monitoring Officer if there has been any declaration of interest submitted prior to the meeting and if there is any declaration from the floor.
So no interests have been declared ahead of the meeting. Are there any declarations of interest from the floor?
I'd like to
Councillor
declare
Gibbs.
an interest in the neighbourhood development plan for Hungerford, of which I was a member, obviously non-pecuniary.
All right. Moving on to agenda item 5, petitions. May I ask members if there have been any petitions they wish to present to the council? No. Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 6, public questions. There's been no public questions received. Chair, Moving on to agenda item 7, membership of committees. There have been no proposals to amend any memberships of the committees. Moving on to agenda item 8, motions from previous meetings. Council is informed about the responses to the following motions. That Councillor David Marsh's motion on the registration of companion bus pass scheme was responded to at the executive meeting on the 13th of February 2025. And that Councillor Anthony Armagash motion for fair management of public open spaces and new developments is scheduled to be responded to at the end of the executive meeting on the 3rd of July 2025. Moving on to agenda item 9, update from committees. There's been no updates. Yeah, sorry. Moving on to agenda item 10, Hungerford Neighbourhood Development Plan. May I invite Councillor Pemberton to move the motion?
Happy to so move, Chair.
Does that find a seconder?
It does, Chair.
Councillor Gorley, thank you very much. Do you wish to reserve your rights?
Yes, please.
Thank you. May I invite Councillor Pemberton to introduce the report?
Members, good evening. The 2011 Localism Act encourages communities and local people to come together and shape the future of their local areas through neighbourhood development plans. Neighbourhood development plans must be subject to consultation, independent examination and a referendum. If successful at referendum, they form part of the statutory development plan for West Berkshire. Once a neighbourhood development plan is adopted, it carries the same weight as other development plan policies, and the policies it contains take precedence over existing non-strategic policies. I've knocked on many doors and canvassed Hungerford, both during the local elections of 2023 and also in the run-up to the general election last year. And I know that this is a community that thrives on the values of collaboration, sustainability, and a shared vision of the future. I always get quite excited when I hear about neighbourhood development plans because Thatcham is in the very early stages of producing its own one. The more I learn about them, the more excited I get because they act as a roadmap that shapes a community's growth. They are a collective effort to guide a community's priorities, plans, and strategic aims in a way that benefits everyone, as well as being an opportunity to shape an area's future and protect the very things that make that community unique. Now, of course, there are ward members in the room tonight who are better placed than I am to speak to the technicalities and provisions contained within this neighbourhood development plan. But what I will say is that the document before members tonight is a culmination of 7 years' worth of work, and we are asking that the process now continues by way of consultation. This is a great moment for the community of Hungerford. The plan itself focuses on key areas which are important to the parish, empowering residents, promoting sustainable growth, supporting the protection of efficiency standards for homes, providing important local direction on heritage, highways, and also key issues relevant to my own portfolio, for example, around the need for strong local business relationships, a vibrant high street, and tourism. It is wide-reaching both on content, vision, and aspiration. It sets a positive vision for the parish and provides a unique opportunity for residents to actively contribute to shaping to the area. Were the plan to be adopted, we as a council will be making sure that the future growth of Hungerford is in line with the aspirations and needs of its residents. I wholeheartedly support the proposal put before us tonight, and I would urge all of the members to support it too. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gaines.
Thank you, Chairman. You would expect the portfolio holder for planning to propose or at least second this item. However, I was advised not to do that as I've been involved in the Hungerford Town Plan, the Town Plan Refresh and the Neighbourhood Development Plan over the last 20 years. In fact, I was the joint chair of the NDP before stepping down when I was elected in 2023. The chair is actually here tonight. The steering group has done a fantastic job of getting this document to this stage of the process and have worked extremely hard engaging the public in the last 2 years and getting the document you see before you in such an informative and interesting format. It's surprising the amount of work required to produce these NDPs, and we should celebrate all the towns, villages and parishes that have achieved this. I'm paraphrasing what Councillor Pemberton has just said, but Hungerford is a very special place. The town has been in existence since before the 14th century, and all the surrounding lands of the High Street were gifted to the residents by John of Gaunt, the fourth son of the Edward III. This means this land is protected by a statute and in perpetuity and protected by the trustees of the town and manor, which makes us, if not unique, then certainly unusual, as we also are a very effective and dedicated town council who commissioned this plan. As a result of the statute, the land is protected. It means that land availability for Hungerford is finite. However, this NDP does allocate housing. The local plan requires Hungerford to allocate 55 dwellings to 2020 and 41. So 2 sites have been identified for that allocation. But the plan does so much more than allocate the housing numbers. There is a vision on page 85 which really embodies the community spirit of Hungerford. It has policy items hung 1 to hung 13, using a similar format to the local plan. These policies detail a range of areas, including housing mix, specific land areas, and play and youth facilities. There are also a number of action items which aim to work with other organisations around the town to achieve the best outcome for the residents of Hungerford. I fully support the recommendations of this report, Chair. Thank you.
Against. Councillor Vickers.
Thank you, Chairman. Unlike Councillor Gaines, I played no part in this neighbourhood development plan, but I just want to really add to a little bit to what she has said. I've been enormously impressed since I was elected to represent the largest ward in this district by not just Hungerford Town Council, but all the parish councils, how hands-on and community-centred they are. But Hungerford Town Council, being non-political, actually tells us quite a lot about how you can perhaps collaborate better in that sort of environment at the lowest level of politics. Politics is unavoidable, but you can keep parties out of it, and often it does help. I belong to a politicised town council here in Newbury, but it does sometimes get in the way. That might be controversial amongst my colleagues, but as you know, 90% of the time we agree on things across party, and that's all to the good for our residents' benefit. And I hope that we see many more neighbourhood development plans coming from across the district, because it gives the chance to the residents who aren't even on their local council to have a part in framing what the future will look like in their villages and communities. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Sumner.
Thank you, Chairman. Just very briefly, I think we all recognise the amount of work that goes into putting the neighbourhood development plans together, both on behalf of the officers and the parish and town councils, and we should never be in a position where we don't recognise that. The one thing we do need to make sure of with all of these is that there is as much communication from all parties as is humanly possible to make sure that everybody within the area has full awareness, is keen to engage, and that actually, therefore, it does deliver what the majority of people want it to deliver within any NDP area. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair. I would echo everything that's been said so far about the value of neighbourhood development plans. And as a declaration, I should say that I'm actually sitting on a steering group for the Newbury Neighbourhood Development Plan. And the thing I would like to say, there are 2 points. One is that in our rural areas, what is so important about an NDP is that residents can decide where housing goes. And I think that is a key issue because people tend to think that in an area such as ours, where there's a national landscape and there are all sorts of restrictions on planning, that people in the villages don't want housing. I don't believe that's true. But I think what is really important is that those residents decide where the best place is for those houses to go, and then they're accepted within their community, which is really, really important. And I think so. In other words, I think an NDP process really empowers residents, as Councillor Sumner has said. And the final point I'd like to make is to pay public tribute to the residents, the members of the public that actually sit on neighbourhood development plan committees, that sit on the steering groups, because there is a lot of work involved. It's totally voluntary, and without their valuable contribution, these NDPs just simply wouldn't happen. So I'd like to pay tribute to all the residents, particularly in Hungerford, as we're talking about Hungerford's NDP tonight, and thank them for all their contributions. Thanks, Chair.
Very much. Councillor Bennyworth.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Foote has rather stolen my thunder there, so thank you, Nigel. I'd just like to pay tribute to my ward colleague, Councillor Gaines, who's been heavily involved with this project, and a special word of thanks to Councillor Richard Hudson from Hungerford Town Council. He's been working with this man and boy for the last 7 years or so, and it's been a labour of love, as all of these NDPs are. The whole team that's managed to bring it to this point have my complete admiration, and wish them the very best of luck come the referendum, should this committee, this council decide to approve it. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. It's very interesting hearing testimony of members this evening about the NDP we're discussing and others in the pipeline. I'd just like to make a plea on behalf of many of our smaller parishes and communities. For quite some time, members of Aldermaston Parish Council considered producing an NDP, and in the end they concluded that it was too big a task for them, and it's nothing. That they're a very hard-working council, and to a large extent, this is true of, I think, all of the smaller councils. Their ability to get things done is very often dependent upon the skills available to them at the time. So just a plea, really, that we mustn't forget our smaller communities who are not able to take advantage of the benefits that NDPs bring.
Thank you. Councillor Dick.
Thank you, Chairman. And I'd like just to go back to Councillor Pemberton's words, and I recognise them all, and we all appreciate how difficult these plans are, how long they take, and how much energy the local communities invest in them. And as we were reminded, they are an opportunity to shape the local community, including, of course, housing. So that's where I'm stuck a bit this evening, because a number of important councillors and others have underlined the old promises to do with local plans, and again, and I quote, including shaping housing, because this is being promised tonight again to another hardworking local council, Hungerford in this case, whereas Cold Ash, whose plan has wet ink on it, literally, has had 2 large areas of housing foisted on it in complete contradiction to their plan. I appreciate that came from central government, but there was no resistance at all from West Berkshire Council, and the good citizens of Cold Ash are bitterly disappointed. And I hope that Hungerford and others don't have the same disappointment, because this could disencourage other councils who would like to have such a plan. Perhaps I can be reassured. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Abbs.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I didn't really going to say much on this. Obviously, NDPs, I think, are incredibly important. So I would encourage everybody who can do one to do one. My concern is a little bit similar to Councillor Dick's comment just there. The statement was made that this decide where housing goes. It has a strong influence in terms of where the housing might go, but we cannot, and because we're broadcasting this online, we must not encourage people to think that just because they say in an NDP the housing will go here, that's the job done. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way, as Councillor Dick rather just pointed out. Government can override it. Any developer can apply at any time to go anywhere. It does carry weight, and that's the important bit. But as someone who sits on Western Area Planning, I don't want the wrong impression to go out there that we can stop development just by having an NDP. We can't do that. We don't have the power to do that as a district council.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I'd certainly like to endorse what both the last two speakers have said in relation to housing. I've been a member of a steering group for the Tilehurst neighbourhood development plan for 8 years, and in fact we've been working on it for a total of 10 years now, and we've had a lot of obstacles along the way. But what I would like to say is I read through this plan for Hungerford today, and it has inspired me somewhat, because I think it's a very well written plan, great maps, photographs. You know, it was quite easy to interpret and understand, you know, what you're trying to do there. And I will be forwarding this to the members of the Tilehurst steering group, because I hope it will inspire them to continue their good work and bring the Tilehurst plan through to fruition. So well done, Hungerford. I think you've done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would the seconder like to move it, Councillor Godley?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I think first off, again, to echo the comments made by colleagues around the chamber this evening, there's an awful lot of work that goes into producing a neighbourhood development plan. And again, a significant amount of that done by volunteers with the support of officers. So thank you and well done. I think NDPs are a great example of that local democracy in action and the ability for communities to take control of what they want to try and achieve. And I think with planning and development, it's always good to bring communities with you. To answer a couple of comments I think made, my understanding is that it doesn't just have to be parishes that can do local plans. You can club together and group parishes together to produce an NDP. So that could be something that perhaps Oldham Maston reaches out to some of its local neighbouring areas, perhaps to look at pulling one together and having a bit more critical mass, perhaps. With regards to Councillor Dick's comments, I believe Coldash's NDP didn't have any houses in it. And I think the difference here is that Hungerford chose to allocate some houses in this NDP, and those are also included in that kind of draft local plan. So again, I think there is opportunities for communities to choose where they put these houses. And I think finally, or certainly almost finally, there is so much great stuff in here. There's so much great stuff for the environment, and I think that's really important. And I know how passionate the Hungerford Town Council and Hungerford Heat are with regards to the environment. So it's so positive to see such great stuff in this with regards to the environment. And I really look forward to seeing it come to life as someone that regularly visits Hungerford and transits through Hungerford. I look forward to seeing it come to life. So again, thank you very much to those involved. And I hope that Hungerford residents look forward to taking this to referendum and hopefully adopting it in the future. But thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Pemberton, if you'd like to respond to any points raised in the debate or make any concluding comments.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I will keep this very brief. Thank you to all members for their comments. The thing that I really love about neighbourhood development plans is that they are so community-based. We've all sat in planning meetings, I know I have, in Eastern Area planning meetings, where you go through the merits of an individual planning application and you have to sit there and kind of contend with lots of what sometimes seem like quite complex and archaic rules. But these are examples of communities coming together and actually talking about the kind of development that they want to see. And these exercises are really, really popular. As Councillor Dick has correctly referred to, Coldash had their own neighbourhood development plan referendum last year. Turnout for that was 27%. That's even higher than some by-elections. And of course, there is a by-election coming up next month, of course. I don't think it's fair to say, councillor Dick, that, you know, when some of the modifications to the local plan came forward, that this council and this administration did nothing about it, or did very little about it. As you know, that was instructions and conditions imposed upon us from central government. I have issues around the local plan myself. It's called North East Thatcham. Sits directly next to my ward. There's 2,500 homes due to go there. I'm not happy about that either, but we are where we are. Take your comments on board. But look, I think this is an amazing piece of work. I know just how much work goes into these things because, as I said earlier, Thatcham is in the very early stages of producing its own. I also would like to thank all of the members of the steering group and the local community that came together to bring us to where we are now. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Please could I ask the Deputy Returning Officer to conduct a vote by show of hands?
Thank you, Chair. Can I have all those in for raise their hands, please? Any against? Any abstentions? Thank you. That's been carried.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 11, the statutory pay policy 2025-26. May I invite Councillor Jeff Brooks to formally move the recommendation contained within the report.
Pleased to move it, Chair.
Thank you. Does that find a seconder?
I wish to second, Chair.
Do you wish to reserve your rights?
I do, Chair.
Thank you very much. I invite others to speak or any attended by Zoom. Yeah, speak.
Chairman, I'm pleased to introduce this and members are familiar with this annually. However, I do need to correct 4.6 and 6.1 of the report. On 4.6, this matter should be considered at Personnel Committee. And in the conclusion on 6.1, it is recommended that the pay policy statement is submitted to the Personnel Committee for approval. In fact, members, that is incorrect. Members of the Personnel Committee, chaired by Councillor Shakespeare, will recall that it went through the Personnel Committee on the 14th of January, so it's entirely appropriate to come to Council tonight, and therefore the recommendation to adopt it is appropriate, is correct, and can be supported this evening. And so I'm asking you to take that into account within considering the report. It's been through the rigorous process of comparison with pay scales, and we go through this annually. We are satisfied at Personnel Committee that this is a robust, appropriate, and proportionate to the comparators around the country and on the pay scales. I recommend it to the council and hope it will find support. Thank you.
Thank you. I apologise for getting ahead of myself again. Anybody who would like to speak? Yeah, speak to Councillor Abbs. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Nothing much really. I just think we've got an opportunity to add a little bit of transparency in the document and to maybe for it to help as a recruiting element. Things like medium and mean salaries are mentioned, ratios are mentioned, grades, high salary is mentioned, lots of stuff is mentioned. It does speak of pensions, but it does fail to give any indication of what that looks like. There's a link that says, you know, find out about your pension here, but you go to the website, it doesn't really tell you anything about that. Why is that important for transparency? Well, I think in terms of government and what the pension looks like, it's a big factor for working for the civil service. And therefore, from a transparency perspective, giving some indication of the mean, the medium, the whatever within this document would be useful. And by doing so, it becomes useful in terms of as a recruiting element, because it's such an important part of a remuneration when you're a civil servant. Actually giving some indication of the value associated with it in the document might just help us recruit the people that we need. So it's not really a complaint, it's just really an observation that we have an opportunity just to expand what it says a little bit and take some more advantages. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, Councillor Cottingham.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Abbs has sort of stolen my thunder a little bit as well regarding the importance of transparency and accountability, especially with salaries and retaining and recruiting talent. The fact that the more we can produce within the guidelines, more the better. It's really important, as I say, that we attract talent into West Berkshire, and this document goes towards that. And again, from my perspective, as much as we can produce, more the better, within the appropriate guidelines which we have from a reporting perspective and compliance.
Councillor Brooks, if you want to respond to any points raised in the debate or make any concluding comments.
Well, I was going to give Councillor Abbs a fairly dusty answer, but then my finance portfolio holder agreed with him. So I'm going to adapt very quickly here and say that it's perfectly reasonable to draw attention to what the pension contributions are, not necessarily role by role, would it be a percentage? We don't have the ability to affect that percentage, but I think it's a very healthy thing to do, Councillor Cottingham, and thank you for your support on that. And Councillor Abbs, I think you suggested it. Well done. We'll add it in future years. So with that, I put it as the appropriate pay scale to adopt, and hope it will find favour. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please could the Deputy Morning Officer conduct a vote by a show of hands, please?
Thank you, Chairman. If I could have a show of hands for. Any against and any abstentions? Thank you. That has been carried.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 12, constitutional changes. May I invite Councillor Jeff Brooks to formally move the recommendations contained within the report.
Happy so to move, Chairman.
Does that find a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair, and reserve my right.
Thank you, Councillor Coulson. May I invite Councillor Brooks to introduce the report?
Thank you, Chairman. It's been going on for probably 2 or 3 years now that the Constitution has been reviewed. It is very much a dynamic document. There are a lot of changes generally, both legislative that come from central government and others we'd like to do to make the Constitution slicker, perhaps, certainly more easy to navigate if you're looking through it, and to better reflect a changing environment. It's a cross-party task group, and I'm grateful for those who sit on it from across the chamber. I think all of these have been agreed comfortably across the task group. There's no dissension. Key things I'll draw your attention to. This has concentrated this aspect in terms of code of conduct for members, and not only members here, but across the parishes. The complaints process, where a member may have a complaint against them. And as an example of what this is recommending, within that complaints process and a legacy of, from the beginning of going back to the old standards board, an independent panel sitting. You have an independent person, and then having gone through that process, you sling it out to an independent panel, which looked like a lot of duplication of work, held the thing up. There was one complaint I remember took the best part of 2 years to resolve because you had to get the independent panel together and to sit and deliberate. And so we scrapped that. We are recommending tonight that that is removed because we felt it didn't add anything to the process of value. In fact, it detracted from it. We've also added in, and this is something that over the years ahead, I hope my party will continue to benefit from, but you never know, it could be another party, where the leader annually at the annual meeting makes a 10-minute statement on the progress the council is making against its ambitions and strategy. So that is now being added in, should this find favour tonight. It follows after that questions can be asked on that report, only on that report, by other members of the council to the leader to tease out some areas, perhaps of confusion, or points where we haven't achieved perhaps what we expected to achieve. And so the leader has I say a grilling, I don't mean it in that way, or perhaps it will become one, but in May that will be added in. So that will take place. So I recommend this. Work goes on. I'm grateful to all those working on the task group. And again, I hope this finds favour.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brooks. Councillor Coulson, would you like to?
Thank you. I'd just very quickly like to say that I joined this task group in January. And for those who are not familiar with the work of the Constitution Review Task Group, you may think the subject matter is a little dry. I've found actually I was pleasantly surprised. It's actually quite interesting and also useful. And it's been good to work cross-party. So I would like to second that. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Brooks, if you'd like to respond to any points raised in the debate or make any concluding comments. Oh, sorry, Councillor McKinnon.
Not at all, Chairman. Thank you. Yeah, I'm a member of the Constitutional Review Task Group, and I was just about to say exactly what Councillor Coulson said. It is not as dry and as dull as you might think. And I've been a fairly irregular attender of the group, really, mainly because of its time slot. It often clashes with my work, but the sessions that I have been to, they've been really interesting and really useful. They're run very well. The officer support is good. And those of us who remember our former colleague, Councillor Bridgman, would know that he was absolutely in his element with that. And although he would be amiss to any sort of detailed review body, I think the group does a really good job. So yes, very happy to support these changes. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Brooks.
Nothing to add. Grateful to for the support of the Leader of the Opposition, and we'll carry on doing work. I mean, this will go on. There's a fair bit to go through. I think actually in the next couple of meetings we get through it once, as in Councillor Bridgman started it, and we've taken up the baton and you've gone through them. The Forth Road Bridge has been painted once, sort of thing. I think now they don't start it again. Now I think the Forth Road Bridge, they're using paint now that lasts longer. But I digress. And then we'll start again, perhaps a lighter touch, but this will go on. This process will go on. And as you know, it does go through the governance committee as well before it comes here. So it gets a good look at, and I understand Councillor Owen Jeffrey took a fine-tooth comb to it as well. So there's lots of checks and balances going on this work. And I think it's a very worthwhile thing. And thank you that it's not as dry, is it? It's something we should understand, we should get to know, we should make easier to navigate, and we're doing exactly that. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 13. Oh, sorry, the vote, sorry. Are we ahead of myself again? Deputy Morning Officer, conduct a vote by show of hands.
Thank you, Chair. If I could have a show of hands for all those for. Any against and any abstentions? Thank you. That has been carried.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 13, Member Development Programme. May I invite Councillor Poole to move the motion?
Thank you, Chair. Report moved.
Does that find a seconder?
Second, thank you, Chair, and reserve my right.
Thank you very much. Councillor Poole.
Thank you very much, Chair. Members, our member development programme is traditionally an annual programme where we look at all of the things that we need to learn and receive training on so that we can discharge our duties as councillors. We like a bit of a structure. I like a bit of a structure here. So in this year's member development plan, we are looking at a 4-year cycle that includes timelines for all of the trainings that we need to do. I'd like to extend a quick thank you to all of the members who have provided feedback on the training this year. It's been incredibly valuable. And also a special thank you to the other members of the membership training group. Councillor Willison, your contribution has been incredibly valuable. Thank you. And Councillor Taylor, thank you very much. Your contributions have been valuable also. Excuse me. The main contribution that is different this year is that in addition to a physical training, we are looking to do a virtual training as well, because we recognise in a lot of our party and a lot of the councillors across the room here today, we are working in a virtual space. We're working in a digital space, and the training programme that we pulled together with the officers incorporates physical and in-person training, as well as digital training where you can watch at your own pace if you're unable to attend. There's also support from the group leaders being asked for within the membership programme, where we can support all of the councillors to complete their statutory elements so that we can discharge our duties accordingly. I said this last year, I'll say it again now. The work that's been put in by the officers has been first class. I'm really, really proud of the work that's been done. And it is our training programme for the next 12 months. I'm not entirely sure what else I'm supposed to say other than it's a wonderful programme. and I endorse it. I welcome comments from the other councillors in the room. Thank you.
Open this up to the floor.
Councillor Colbert.
Colbert, sorry, Councillor Colbert.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Paul. I think it might be worth us adding something about casework and the expectations on councillors of dealing with casework, and particularly who they can go to when they need help with something. People might remember back in the day we had Moira Fraser, who did a fantastic job of supporting us. So if we ever had a bit of casework and we weren't sure who to go to, she'd be able to direct us. And our group doesn't have officer support. And we now are sort of casting around trying to work out who can help with what. And obviously, the longer we're here, the more we build up that knowledge. So even if we couldn't have training specifically around casework support, it would be great to have organograms for all the departments so that we can look and see who covers what. John Winstanley's always been very good at showing us updated organograms. Oh, there you go. Maybe we can do a session on stationery and how not to lose it. But yeah, I think it would be really, really invaluable, because I'm conscious that there are very good officers that you go to repeatedly to get information because you know that they always respond, and they're not necessarily the person that we should go to, and we need to make sure we go to the correct person. So yeah, if we can do something around casework, I think that would be really good. Thank you.
Councillor Vickers.
Thank you, Chairman. One light-hearted comment on what Councillor Poole said, and then one more serious one, having looked through the table. I got excited when Councillor Poole mentioned physical training. Took me back to my army days, and I was wondering if I'd be missing out on, 2-mile runs or something. That would be quite good, I think. We all need to keep fit. We sit for far too long. Although, of course, if we're out there delivering leaflets, that helps. On the more serious point, I've been struck by the difficulty of engaging with technology for some of us. And I see no specific mention of ongoing IT updating. I would like to see that. We are of varying degrees digital natives. I feel like sometimes the land of the one-eyed, I'm the one-eyed man in the land of the blind when I'm at home, because I know a bit more than my other half, but not nearly enough on the subject of IT. And I'm sure she would agree. So I think that needs to be in there somewhere, because what you have on day one as newly elected members, it just goes straight through. There's too much else to learn at that stage. But constantly, if I was intending to stand again, I think the decisive factor would be, no, I'm sorry, I just can't cope anymore with the IT.
I think I better say careful, Councillor Vickers. Anybody else? Councillor Brooks.
Thank you, Chairman. I notice we've all got 5 minutes suddenly, Darius. Thank you for that. I'm not sure where that comes from, but I'll take it. You'll remember, Councillor McKinnon, Councillor Marsh, we had a Teams on this, and I expressed some frustration that the previous year's development programmes just sort of rinsed and repeated courses, if you like, development sessions that, frankly, I felt were redundant. So with Councillor Paul and a committee's support, we took a really good look at this. And I think Mr. Zarazel over there probably got pretty frustrated as we said, no, that won't work. No, go back again, to get a 4-year programme to say this needs to happen in the first year of the cycle. And then you adjust it over the years to come. Of course, we're mid-cycle now, so we're showing the next 2 years. Because we don't want to make people sit through something that they really have sat through perhaps a year before and not much has changed, if anything. So I think we got the balance right now. We'll be reviewing it again during the course of the year. But there's an extra aspect to this that we're recommending, or this report is recommending. And that is the group leaders' involvement. People here may remember, some will remember, we had a good old argument for 25 minutes over the use of the word mandatory. It was me who was arguing, actually. Because in fact, you can put mandatory down on anything you like. But when the members don't turn up to do it, what does mandatory mean? Nothing. It means something in terms of if the Constitution says you have to go through planning, or if legislation says you have to go through planning, training, set the plan, that fine, that is mandatory by legislation, by Constitution. The rest of it, to call corporate parenting mandatory, we don't, and yet we sort of expect you to do it. So there's a different way of mandating members. And I think that's where the group leaders have a part to play, where we actually will get, according to this, a quarterly attendance record of members who have attended. We'll be able to review that, review our own attendance, and lead, hopefully by example, to achieve better attendance to important courses. That's a big change here, because otherwise we've just left it, and occasionally head of Dem services would say, oh, you know, we didn't get many people in last night, and attendance has been patchy. We want a member development program that is appreciated, that is effective, that people want to go to and value. And we don't want to have a situation where somebody says, oh, we have member development. How many went last night? Oh, 7. Oh, 7. Oh, yes. And 5 of those were the Conservatives. And we go, oh, my God, oh, we better have more attendance next time. That's not the motivation to go along for member development. It's a motivation, but it's silly. It's silly. And I think this will make a lot of progress in making people want to go to the sessions, value the sessions, get value out of it, and have some degree of pressure from a group leader to say, come on now, you really need to go to this. So heavy endorsement from me on this, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. And can I just say, if you look at the Constitution, you'll see where the 5 minutes came from. Thank you.
Well, I tell you what, I'll change it at the next Constitution Review Task Group.
Could I please ask the Deputy Monitoring Officer to conduct a vote, show of hands? Sorry. Oh, sorry. Are we ahead again of myself? Sorry, Councillor Poole.
It's all right, Chair. Thank you very much. So I'd like to thank everyone for their comments and contributions. Councillor Vickers, you are a very brave man when you get home tonight. I'm not going to comment on the questions that were raised today by Councillor Culver and Councillor Vickers, but what I will commit to is finding the answers and sharing that out across all councillors on our email addresses that we have a copy. That's for the organogram and the IT training. Yeah. Just like to thank everyone for their contributions. It seems as though we're largely in agreement. The only slight adjustment or slight variation that I'd like to make is to Councillor Brooks's comments. We're going to be able to support the leaders of the group by providing positive encouragement so that we can complete our training. Just a slight nuance in the language, just as a suggested amendment for that. But otherwise, that all good for me. I'll move it to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Poole. Please could I ask the Deputy Monitoring Officer to conduct a vote, a show of hands.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Councillor Vick.
Thank you, Chairman. Point of information, there was a remark earlier about how useful it would be for members to have an officer through whom they could route inquiries if they weren't too sure about where they should go. There is such a person, and she told me herself 3 months ago. I discovered it by accident, and it is Moira Fraser. She's alive and well and rerouting members' inquiries, but she didn't tell us. But now I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dick.
Thank you, Chairman. May I have a show of hands for all those in favour? Any against? And any abstentions? Thank you. I can confirm that's been carried.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 14, leaders' update of the membership of the executive.
Chairman, as I expressed at the executive meeting, Councillor Justin Pemberton has taken on extra duties, responsibilities, portfolio enlarged, because Councillor Louise Sturgis stepped down, and the economic and regeneration portfolio has now been put into Councillor Pemberton's purview. He also has the public protection, public safety side. So that's a confirmation of that, which is necessary here after I express that at executive meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks. Moving on to agenda item 15, notice of motions. There is no motions received on this notice. Agenda 16, members' questions. And the first question is from Councillor Phil Barnett to be answered by Councillor Nigel Foot.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Barnett, for your question. The cattle were removed in discussion with Greenham Common Commission, who oversee matters such as grazing and commoners' rights. The common was being badly overgrazed and has been for many years, but with the involvement of the grazing commoners, all the animals have been removed over the winter months, but will be returned gradually as the grass and vegetation on the common grows again through the spring and summer months. This is a great step forward in the management and conservation of the common. Do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Councillor, for that explanation. You did say during the summer, I was hoping it would be just spring and that would recommence in the next month. Is that the case? It won't be now for 2 or 3 months.
Thank you very much for your supplementary question. Yes, as I understand it, come the spring, animals will be gradually reintroduced to the common so that there will be a smaller number of animals introduced in the spring. And then as the weather warms up and the grass starts to grow, then more animals will be gradually introduced until you get to maximum capacity, if you like, in the summer. And the reason for that is quite simply that all the wild flowers were being eaten by the cattle. If all the cattle are out on the common in one go, and it's been found in collaboration with the Greenham commoners that if you gradually introduce the cattle, then the wildflowers are preserved and you get a sort of virtuous circle of conservation and the cattle benefit as well. I hope that answers that supplementary question.
Thank you, Councillor. Question B, Councillor Phil Barnett to be answered by Councillor Nigel Foot.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you once again for your second question. The Council has been involved with the celebration arrangements through its partner, Berkshire, Buckinghamshire, Oxfordshire Wildlife Trust, BBOUT, who will be actively involved on the day. In addition, the Council's heritage team are also involved and they will be giving a presentation to the public on the day on matters of the Common's heritage importance. Do you have a supplementary question?
Well, believe it or not, Councillor Foot, I don't, but I'm pleased to hear that we are actually taking note of this important day because it's been very important for the community the last 25 years.
Question C from Councillor Ross McKinnon to be answered by Councillor Stuart Gorley.
Yes, thank you, Councillor McKinnon, for your question. So, yeah, absolutely understand that a move to free weekly black bin collections may raise concerns, and especially for those with larger families. To help residents adjust, whilst Berkshire Council provides a range of support options and will continue to do so. One of which is to provide extra black bin capacity where there's a genuine need, taking individual circumstances into account. Our approach balances the need to promote the waste hierarchy, which is reduce, reuse and recycle, with the responsibility to support residents who truly require that additional space. Extra capacity is granted when necessary, encouraging responsible recycling and helping to prevent excessive or unnecessary waste disposal. And this ensures support is both fair and effective while also reducing the amount of waste sent to landfill. Do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Gurley. So do I take it then that a larger black bin is on offer? And what criteria will you use to decide which residents qualify and which residents don't?
Thank you. Yes, I think we discussed this a bit at scrutiny, if I remember correctly, and the policy stands the same as it is now, which is that there is extra capacity available for those that are in need, and every individual case is judged by its merits. And I think it's appropriate to have that conversation with those individuals as and when they identify themselves. But that support is there, and that's the bit I want to make key. That support is absolutely there, along with a plethora of other support options that we have. But happy to have those conversations with individual residents and officers. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor, question D, Councillor McKinnon to be answered by Councillor Gaines.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor McKinnon, for your question. As you're aware, the direction from government was to not take any steps to withdraw the plan from examination, and on conclusion of the examination, to publish the planning inspector's recommendations and reasons, and consider adopting the plan, including any main modifications deemed by the planning inspector necessary to make the plan sound. The examination is now concluded. Once the inspector's report is published, the council will consider this and whether to adopt the plan in light of the opportunities and risks of doing so. And this will be the decision for full council in the coming months. Do you have a supplementary?
I certainly do, Councillor Gaines, because you did not answer the question as to what the consequences would be for the council if the executive continues to fight against the progression. Now, the ministerial direction states that should you fail to comply with the direction, I, the minister, will consider taking further intervention action. And the leader at Budget Council said, and I quote, "The local plan, we're still fighting it. The game ain't over yet. We're still fighting it, so don't tell us we've failed until we've failed." Now, the minister might be watching this live, possibly. If not, she'll certainly see it soon. So do you support the leader's statement that you're still fighting the local plan, given the direction you're under?
At this point in time, yes.
Question E from Councillor Dominic Boyk to be answered by Stuart Gorley. Councillor Gorley.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Burt, for the question. So evening charges aren't applicable until after 6 p.m, in most council car parks. So motorists don't need to pay the evening charge if they are not remaining parked beyond 6 o'clock. Do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you for your reply. And I can assure you that if you go to the Kennet Centre car park, Kingston Centre car park in Thatcham, and you pop in for a loaf of bread just after 5 o'clock, you pay for the hour, you will also pay the £1 overnight. I can guarantee that is the case. So do you think that is fair?
If you're happy to send me the details on that, I can take a look at it. From my understanding, that in a pay and display machine car park, if you purchase that ticket, as you say, you shouldn't be paying it. So, for example, if you purchased a ticket at 5:30 and paid for an hour, for example, that would cover you to 6:30. But if you've got evidence and you can send it my way, I'm happy to take that one, have a look at it, and come back to you.
No, you've asked it. Sorry, Councillor.
I'm not sending you these. You ask your officers, because I've had advice from them that is the case.
Question.
Not the advice I received, not the information I received from last.
Come on, gentlemen. Councillor Councillor Boyk, to be answered by Councillor Gorley. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yes, thank you very much again for the question. We've been pressing Thames Water for action to resolve the issues at Willhampton, and Thames Water has only recently announced the work to connect a new tank at the sewage treatment works, meaning that tankering can thankfully cease in the coming weeks. However, information regarding those timescales weren't available on the 13th of February, nor were they in the Newby Weekly News. I am, however, sure you agree that this is an excellent resolution and hopefully great news for residents in the area. Do you have a supplementary?
Thank you, Councillor Gurley. Yes, it is very good news, and that news was available to you on the night of that I asked the question. On the 12th of March, let me get this right, there was a public meeting held at the auspices of Wolverhampton Parish Council. West Berkshire Council officers were in attendance, as were Thames Water, and Thames Water made it absolutely clear that what they were doing, which we'd never been able to find out before, that they were rebuilding the Wolverhampton pumping station, and the tanking was going on to support that activity. So that information was available to you had you asked your officers. And I can't understand why you couldn't, because that evening, you remember, we had a bit of a spat about politicising the question. I was simply asking a question on behalf of my residents. The information was available for them. The information was available. The report in the New Weekly News came from the same source.
Councillor Boyd, can
Why
I have
didn't
a
you know?
question, please?
Yeah, I suppose it's just to clarify that the meeting was on the 13th of February, not the 13th of March. So
the 12th of March, and then the 13th.
the executive meeting was the 13th of February. You're saying that you were saying the pub. Yeah, exactly. Which is after the executive meeting.
I'm sorry.
You get the point.
No, I don't. I've lost track now of all these dates, to be quite frank.
It's the day before.
So there was the public. The information I had and was given was correct at the time that I have, and I'm sorry, but I'm sorry that you're telling me the meeting was on the 12th of March. Was it the 12th of February?
I misspoke. It was the day before the executive announced.
Okay.
The 12th of February.
Well, at that time, I did not have that information available to me.
Can we go on to the next question, please? Thank you. Question D from Councillor Dominic Boyd, answered by Councillor Pemberton.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Bowick. I have to say this looks remarkably similar to a question that you asked me at full council just before the Christmas period. I would still reiterate that persistent crimes that are quote unquote terrifying residents should all be reported to the police. This will continue to add to the volume of incidents recorded by them, which will in turn add to the likelihood of the area then becoming or remaining a patrol hotspot for the police area. The police are the only agency who can record and investigate local crimes. That said, if there are other issues that need to be checked, monitored and managed, West Berkshire Council does work in partnership to address local concerns and seek resolutions. Do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you very much for your reply, Councillor Pemberton. I'd just like to point out that I'm asking questions on behalf of my residents. I will continue to ask questions that concerns them to you whenever the opportunity presents itself. You make very good points about residents reporting to incidents to the police. That has been made clear to residents, to parish councils, to communities. Some residents do, some are terrified. Nothing gets done.
Question, please, Dominic, by Councillor Boyd.
So I'd like to know, Councillor Pemberton, what PPP is doing to support my residents. It sounds like not very much.
Thank you for that supplementary question, Councillor Berger. If I'm honest with you, I really do not know what else it is that you expect me to say. Thames Valley Police are responsible for detecting, investigating and prosecuting crime, not the PPP. But just for clarity's sake, just so we're absolutely clear, I will read out again the list of actions that have been undertaken by the local policing team in respect of allegations of crime reported by the residents of Aldermaston over the last 18 months. Number one, they've set up a problem-solving framework. Number two, they've arranged community surveys. Number three, they've set up partnership meetings, including the local community, where the local parish attended. Multiple crimes have been investigated, from criminal damage, vehicle crime, to the rerouting of power. And in January of this year, they even set up an up-to-date problem-solving framework to continue that local policing intelligence work that they've done. There really is nothing else that I can say to you, Councillor Berwick. And on behalf of your residents, I'd like to thank the local policing team for their hard work and dedication.
Thank you. Question 8's been withdrawn. Question I, Councillor Howard-Wilson, answered by Councillor Ian Cottingham.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson, for your question. The council has adopted the investment and borrowing strategy, which is approved annually by the council. The strategy outlines the parameters in which the council undertakes any borrowing. The council's borrowing is measured against the adopted prudential indicators detailed within the strategy, including the balance of short-term and long-term debt. As the council is what is termed a borrowing authority, i.e. dependent upon undertaking borrowing for cash flow purposes, i.e. working capital, and has been for a number of financial years, compliance with the prudential indicators is key. As stated in the Treasury reports to the Governance Committee, the Council has complied with adopted prudential indicators in respect of borrowing undertaken. All borrowings is reviewed against these indicators and availability of the local authority markets prior to accessing the Public Works Loan Board financing. The Council's weighted average cost of borrowing continues to be below 4%. This compares to the average Public Works Loan Board rates of over 5% currently. Do you have a supplementary question?
I do, thank you. Is there any plans proposed for the next financial year to avoid this sort of borrowing at such high cost?
So I didn't catch the last bit of the question, sorry.
Is there any proposal to try and reduce this level of short-term borrowing at such a high cost for next financial year?
So as I detailed within the budget papers, we have a strategy of making sure we have no more than, I think it's 25% of short-term borrowing. We don't want to have all of our short-term borrowing maturing. So we are actually making sure we comply with that to get the lowest level of borrowing for the council. So what we're trying to do is making sure we have the mix regarding short-term, long-term, which maintains the lowest possible weighted average cost of borrowing for the council.
Thank you.
Thank you, members, for questions and answers. I wish to thank everyone for their attendance, and I formally close the meeting. Could the Zoom host end the broadcast, please?